There's the pilot. Mount Comfort, Indiana. Slowly but surely going away. Well, we just finished the annual revenue roundup, and lots of interesting stories are coming out of it. And this year, the DOT seemed like they dug real deep into their dirty bag of tricks. And they kind of did exactly what I've been saying is going to happen. I've been talking about how important supporting documents and things of that nature is, especially now that we're going paperless. So, I've heard a few stories that have been going on. There's been a lot of real chicken stuff that's been happening lately. I say that, but if you thought it was petty before, it's gotten real petty. When I tell you they're digging deep, they are pulling things out of their hat I have never heard of, yet are in the book. I mean, they're nailing guys for some real obscure stuff. So we'll start off with a buddy of mine. He gets pulled in for a level 1. Passes it with flying colors. But they pull up his logbooks, realize that he forgot to certify his logs for the last 3 days. It just, with these computers, it slip your mind if you don't have a reminder. I've had it happen. But he forgets. So the first thing they do, after they get done tearing this logbook apart, they just don't write him up for forgetting. They wrote him up 3 different violations, 1 for each, which essentially tripled all his CSA points. And you know, he was telling me about that. I said, well, that's ridiculous. He said, well, that's what's happening. You know, if you thought what was happening with me was bad the other week, it gets dumber. I'm in Resaca, Georgia, right here. Flying J's right over there. Looking at the dumbest thing I've seen this week. This is the road. This is where it ends. There's a turn lane. And, well, a stop sign with a no left turn. There's literally nothing here. That's not a road. That's a fence. But what a lot of people don't realize is right next to the Flying J on the other side of the trees is the Dollar General with it's a marketplace and has lots of groceries. So I can park there and take a 3-minute walk and get my grocery shopping done. Wish I had more time. This would be really something real neat to see. The problem with the CSA and all that stuff that happened was when they instituted all this and everything went digital, I knew things were going to get a lot more severe because they were going to have to dig deeper. But the interesting thing is they didn't have to dig any deeper. All they had to do was find different things to dig. And boy, did they ever. So I just made it back from Dollar General. It was fabulous. One of the things I've talked about for quite some time have been supporting documents. A lot of guys thought I was joking with them when I talked about this. I knew when e-logs came and they couldn't really nail you on your hours as much as they could. When we had the A-board systems, that was a different story. We could still kind of get away with a few things there. But when we went strictly e-log, I knew that they were going to start resorting to every petty little thing they could. And they have, and they've exceeded my expectations. Now, before you get too crazy, these are rules that were already there, but they really weren't worth messing with. They did add a few, don't get me wrong. But they had to go to plan B, and what plan B ended up being was didn't certify your logs. Don't have your fuel. Fuel used to be a big thing until everybody went paperless. And even with your scale tickets now, like when I got pulled over, I took my clipboard here, I took my bills off it, and I threw this in the back. And I threw everything that was on my passenger seat in the back because I wasn't going to let him see anything I had. It's none of his business. When he looks at my logs, there's a roadside button in there. He's only allowed to look at certain things. If you're paperless and all that, even if you have a paper receipt, no. So, supporting documents, you know, everything has to line up. And this has been going on a lot longer than people realize. And, well, I'll tell you a story about a guy I know who, back when he was on paper, still almost got busted because his logbook didn't match. Didn't match what? Well, it didn't match his ECM. I'll explain. Now, what a lot of guys don't know is that everything in your ECU is time-stamped. And if you know how to read the ECU's time stamping, you can actually create a timeline from when it started, when it stopped, when it idled, when it up and down, all that, when it's driving, when it's parked and whatnot. You really don't need this. And what the guy did was actually plugged his computer into the port and looked at his ECU and literally matched it up with the starting and stopping on his logbook. And it matched, you know, well enough, I guess. He didn't get a ticket. I didn't even know that was a thing, and yeah, apparently it is, you know, back when we were on paper. Now, of course, with the tablets and all that, it's made things a lot easier to, you know, get around. But, you know, they've always had their little tricks and ways, but supporting documents have always been plan B. And I can't get people to understand this. Every little nuance here is very important. I'll show you. Okay, so we got the E-log here. We're here. Don't mind the tape here. That's my own conspiracy theory going on. There is a live camera here. This is a two-way device. It does have a phone number. And I did find pictures on here when I got it, so I deleted it and covered up the camera. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, but they can watch you with this camera. I mean, this is basically a cell phone. So we go back here and off duty. Now your trailer's important. Whatever you're hauling this day is important. And you know, you have to make sure you have your trailer right. You also have to make sure you have your load right. And that is very important. Trailer and load. These are part of your supporting documents. Likewise, when you're here and you scroll up, you have these. This hasn't been certified because we're not done with today, but everything else has to be certified. One of these is not certified. Guess what? That's a violation. You go on roadside, you hit this button, and you can make your own code to get into it. But if you forget how to do this or forget how to go to roadside, guess what? They write you up for that too. Believe it or not, that is also a violation if you don't know how to put it into roadside mode. Yeah, it's a real thing. Check it out. Here in a moment, I'm going to actually go and show you a list of everything from 10 points on down that you can be written up for. I got told wrong. A few of my violations weren't as bad as I thought they were. I'm better off than I thought I was, but it's still going to take 3 years to get it all out. But I digress. There's a lot of points, and there's a lot of points for everything. And the points, like I said, are very serious. Your CSA score is probably at this point more important than your credit score. So the points all vary from 1 to 10, and they are like I said, very serious, and they do compound on each other. Like I said, you know, you can rack them up real quick if you're not careful. So I found a list, and so let's go through it. It'll take a minute or so, but we'll scroll up through it and see what's there, and you'll see that most of it, it's amazing that a lot of the heavier stuff is about securement, but there's all sorts of hours and everything all sprinkled in through it. It's really odd how it's all laid out, so you'll see. Now, reckless driving here, you'll notice that reckless driving and texting while operating still have the same amount of points. 8-point violations, unqualified drivers, all sorts of improper classifications and stuff like that. Not quite. A flat tire, fabric exposed, that tires are serious. Speeding, we're at 7 points. Violations here, there, and you know, the logbooks really hit around the 7-point mark and go down from there. The more expensive or the higher points are all having to do with drugs, alcohol, tires, things. These are all securement. I found, I thought that was quite interesting. Lots of securement stuff. We get in the 6 points for headlights out, tail lights out, turn signals out, defective lamps, steering wheel not secured, power steering violations. 5 points, fail to obey traffic control device, following too close, improper passing. Lots of traffic violations here. No record of duty status, log not current. Some more securement stuff, lots of some less important ones. 4 points, non-English speaking driver, that's a thing. Failure to understand English language has to decipher road signs and signals, weird. Not complying with the manuals, no pre-trip inspection, inadequate brake system, brakes missing, you know, mismatched brake chambers on same axle, mismatched slash adjusters. Lots of brake stuff here on the 4 points. 3 points, violation of bus heater fuel tank location, failure to dim headlight when required, lane restriction violation. Yeah, you're not having the right reflectors on mud flaps, weird. You got to have all the reflectors around. There's a lot of stuff here, and I hate taking so long doing this, but if I go any faster, I can't read it because it was going too fast as I scrolled it. Improper defective fifth wheel, safety chains attachment, re-grooved tire on front of vehicle, truck, bus, trailer. You know, you can't have a re-grooved tire on the front. Sleeper berth requirement violation, horn inoperative. You know, it really does really get down to a lot of stuff here. Larger odd-shaped cargo, not 2-point violations, lacking physical qualifications, no DOT physical, driver not physically qualified, driving when ineligible, missing or obscure standily, I have no idea what that is. Lots of bus stuff here. Cab door missing or broken. This goes to just basically the condition of your vehicle here. Lots of stuff has dates here, you know, vehicles before or after. You start getting into a lot of weird stuff down here. Well, fuel tank securement, fuel cap missing. Lots of safety stuff here, just more securement. Some more A-board system. Just lots of bus stuff too. But as you see, yeah, it was just all kinds of interesting. Well, if you made it through that, congratulations on the last 5 minutes. That I was trying not to make it too mind-numbing, but you kind of get the point that the stuff's a lot more serious than we're letting on, or that anybody's letting on. And you saw the way they had it laid out, which means you could have one thing wrong and still get 2 violations. I mean, I hate to use this word, but it's almost become a very petty game. That it's just, well, if I can't get you on this, I'm going to get you on this. Which comes to my next story. Now, a buddy of mine parks on an on-ramp. He knew better. He parked next to a no parking sign. He flat told me, he says, he said, all instinct said I should have just got up and go. He was tired. He just needed to take a couple minutes and ended up sleeping too long. Gets woke up, cop beating on his truck. It's down in Louisiana. And so he gets a no parking ticket. But then they started compounding things on him. And I said, I wouldn't have answered the door. I would have just let him put the ticket on. He's not going to stay there forever. Cops will eventually go away. I'm not going to tell you where I learned this from, but that's a fact. But so then they start writing him a ticket for, being on the side of the road, and he wasn't not having his emergency flashers on, not having his triangles on. They just started stacking things. Of course, this is Louisiana, and I think all the good cops in Louisiana finally got sick of it and left and went to a safer place like Detroit. I swear, I don't know if there's any good cops left in Louisiana, honestly, from everything I've seen. But that's another story. I'm not anti-cop, it's just, it gets old. So then they start wanting to see this and wanting to see that, and I guess he just ended up getting a stack of stuff over a parking ticket. The amount of pettiness that went on that stop was ridiculous, and it just escalated. Well, they found this and they found that, and I'm not going to tell you everything that went on there because I don't have his permission to really tell you a lot of the story, but for the most part it ended up not being a very pleasant experience. I mean, it cost him some money, and it was just almost to the point of being extortion, really. Yeah, the parking ticket, he flat owned the parking ticket. He said the rest of it just ended up being ridiculous. But, that just sometimes that's what happens. So you really have to kind of watch yourself. What ended up being probably no points at all ended up being kind of a thing. So that's why supporting documents and things of that nature are so important. Like with the e-log, like with everything. That's why it's so important to have all your ducks in a row. Because every little thing, no matter how petty, they're going to write you up. And you really have to learn how to play the game again. The game has changed, and we're not catching up. We need to really play catch up, and we need to really play catch up quick, because from what I'm seeing, the game is played, or the game that's being played now, we are really ill-equipped to play. So I know there wasn't a whole lot of substance to this video, but it's basically a precautionary tale. With what happened to me, what happened to 2 of my friends. The cops, there were certain places the cops were everywhere. between Peoria and Bloomington, they were just stacked like cordwood everywhere. I mean, that day it was pretty rough. So, you know, a lot of the big violators just stayed home, but they'll be just as surprised this year as they were last year when they do another surprise inspection in a week, because wow, they have imagination. So anyhow, just kind of what was going on. Just watch yourself out here, guys. The game's changed, and you know, it's getting petty, but it's getting petty not in your favor. It's a serious game, and the best way to play this game is not to give them an opportunity to play. You've got to take that from them. You know, like I said, get cameras, keep your logbooks up to date, keep your supporting documents up to date, keep your logbooks certified. Make sure you have all the right trailer and load information and all that. Every single thing can be a violation, so just watch yourself. So that's all I got. So I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. See you next video.